It's time to do it. And we cannot do it without vampire teeth. People don't like TikTok, but I'm excited that I did TikTok. It means that I learned how to talk with fangs without lisping too hard. Alright. Time to do the thing I've always wanted to do. Great. I'm not excited. I'm excited. It is I, Ruthie, and I am back with another video. This video has been long in the making. Oh gosh. Okay. I have tried to do this video series for a very long time. There are several scrapped video starts and projects about this specific subject. Why? Why have I abandoned it so often? Well, I hope that you come with me on this spiritual journey I'm about to take, and we'll both discover why. I think I'm ready now. Oh, not ready. Let's begin the project that I've wanted to start for a very long time. Let's delve ourselves into the mess that is Twilight and fix it so I can finally put the past to rest. I will be reviewing the book mostly because the movie is its own brand. But I will be referencing the movie occasionally, so be on the lookout for that. Besides, the story for both is roughly the same, so there's no need to do two separate videos about reviewing the movie and reviewing the book. I may do a video comparing them in the future, but fair warning, I probably won't be tearing into this book as much as you want me to. This review was mostly so that way you're updated on what the plot is, and not so much saying something everybody else and their brother has already said about Twilight. I will try to add to the conversation, but I am not trying to repeat it, so keep that in mind. Now, normally I just assume that you've already consumed the content that I've tried to fix, for example, Bird Box, and let's be honest, I've only done a couple of these videos. But this is different. This is not only old, but it's personal. Deeply personal. And it takes place in the late 2000s. I can't expect everybody to have read the books or watched the movie or even know what the plot is by this point in time. So, I will subjugate you to not only my fixed version, but the original version as well. Now, imagine for a moment that it's 2008 once again. The emos are everywhere. Paramore is literally every girl's favorite band. Skyrim didn't exist yet, and I was in junior high. The book Twilight was getting a movie, and if I remember right, that was like really weird at the time. I don't really remember if YA novels were being made into the movie at the time, except maybe Harry Potter, but I'm pretty sure that they weren't. In fact, I'm pretty sure that Twilight kicked off YA novels getting movie adaptations that are still kind of going on today. So thank Twilight for Hunger Games existing, I guess. However, let's just put it on the table. Twilight wasn't inoffensive like Harry Potter was at the time. It was insanely polarizing. You either loved Twilight or you thought it was the next worst thing compared to the bubonic plague. There were no in-betweens. There are two sides. You have to choose. This is war. You have to choose a side. There's no Switzerland. It was an intense time to live through, that's for sure. Not as intense as now, of course, but its own brand of intense. An innocent brand of intense. Personally, I'm a Harry Potter kid, as you can tell from my swanky tie, and I didn't really see why people loved or hated this series of books. I mean, it was romance. Romance is icky. It has cooties. It's gross. Ew, feelings. Still, I didn't really understand the hubbub because your girl had no friends to talk about books with. At least until I got close to a friend named Kitten, who wasn't exactly a super fan, but she was a fan and she lent me Twilight. I learned afterwards that my mom was not into Twilight, and she also thought it was the bubonic plague, so I got grounded. And I wasn't allowed to read it. But that just means that I did it anyway, because I'm a rebel. And thus, we begin our journey. I'd never given much thought to how I would die, though I had reason enough in the last few months. But even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this. I stared, without breathing, across the long room into the dark eyes of a hunter, and he looked pleasantly back at me. Surely it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else, someone I loved. Noble, even. That ought to count for something. I knew that if I'd never gone to Forks, I wouldn't be facing death right now. But, terrified as I was, I couldn't bring myself to regret this decision. When life offers you a dream so far beyond any of your expectations, it's not unreasonable to grieve when it comes to an end. The hunter smiled, in a friendly way, as he sauntered forward to kill me. Every book in the Twilight series, saga, whatever, starts with a prologue. This prologue is a passage that happens at the climax and is given no context, and therefore you could say it's spoilers, but it's not, because context. I love this about the Twilight series. I love that. Okay? Good job, Twilight. Hey, thanks, I like it. Now, let's do some setup for the story, and then we'll go from there. Our main character is a hormonal teenager with mental problems named Bella Swan. No, there is nothing wrong with having mental problems. And no, we're not going to be getting into the mental problems in this book or review, but just keep that little tidbit of information in your mind palace until we get to it. Bella has chosen to move away from her mother, Renee, and her stepfather, whose name is Philip, to go live with Charlie, who lives in the rainiest place in the goddamn world. Phil is in... So if I remember right, Phil is in minor league baseball and wants to travel, and Renee wants to go with Phil to travel, with Phil, but would have to stay home because Bella is still in school. And then Bella was like, hey, I could just move in with my dad and you could go with Phil. But before I get into the actual story, I do want to shed a light on my favorite character in the book series. Chief of Police Charlie Swan, the father of hormonal teenager Bella Swan. This man. Oh, this man. He tries so hard, so very hard, to give her the space and freedom she needs to be a functioning adult. He also tries to understand where she's coming from all the time, even if he can't really wrap his mind around it. And you must be thinking, oh, Ruthie, that just sounds like a father. Yes, that's my point. This is a completely normal father figure. He isn't abusive. He isn't too invasive with her personal life, and he just doesn't brush her off. It is so nice to see a positive father figure in media. All right, so we start the book out with Bella's internal monologue on how much she hates Forks, but would rather her mother be happy than herself. Okay, she travels from spicy hot Phoenix, Arizona to rainy and dreary Forks, Washington, and gets picked up by her father, Chief Charlie, someone who she doesn't really exactly have the best relationship with. Her relationship with her father isn't bad, it's just distance, and she also has a problem calling Charlie dad instead of by his first name, which I thought is legal, because I don't call my parents by their first name. I think they would disown me if I did that. So I assume she has this problem because when she talks about her father to her mother, she calls her father Charlie. So I think that's why she has the problem. It's not an important problem, but it's a problem, I guess. Charlie gives her a 1984 blue truck that he got from his friend Billy Black, someone I'm not going to explain until much later in this review. She loves it because old trucks are freaking amazing. I love old trucks. Yay! All that's left to do is to cry ourselves to sleep and start our first day of school like a normal teenager. So, Forks High is remarkably smaller than Phoenix, Arizona's high school. And I have no experience on how big schools work, but I do have experience with small to medium sized schools, so I'll let you know how they work. In a town where everyone knows everyone, you get a thing called small town politics, and it's terrible. So small town politics can create roughly 2 different types of environments that Bella would be introduced to. It could be a hostile environment where if you don't belong to certain families and you do one wrong thing, hell rains from above, and then Karen's gossiping about how you did this one thing to Becky, and Becky runs and tells all the teachers, and suddenly your grades are failing because the teachers don't like you because you did this one bad thing like a week ago. That's not personal or anything. Or it can be a completely positive and welcoming environment where new people are treated like novelties and they can either be assimilated or tossed to the wayside, but it's never exactly a negative experience. Surprisingly, in my small town, it's a weird blend of both, but for Bella, it is mostly the latter than the former. In fact, she's actually given amazing attention from everyone, minus like one bully. That one's not even really a bully. And it is at this time that I will introduce the pin board. It's going to be right here. There's going to be a point to this pin board, and I'll explain it when I get there. But let's keep this pin in mind. Pin number 1 is named Positive Attention from the general student populace. We meet the human students that don't really bear much weight on the plot, so don't feel bad if you forget them, but I'm going to go ahead and gloss over them really quick. There's Eric, who's the first person to introduce himself to Bella and has a massive crush on Bella. There's Jessica. She fulfills the role of the gossip girl and is friends with Bella for a while. You have Mike, who's just there to own a store that she's going to work at later and also has a massive crush on Bella. You have Angela, the girl that gets along with Bella the most because she doesn't ask questions, she just helps you bury the body. And then finally we have Laura, who's a shitty cunt who fulfills the bully role, but she doesn't really bully her all that much, but she's still a bully, so fuck her. Eric, Mike, Jessica, and Angela are all the people that Bella sits with at lunch on her first day, and they also spend most of the time talking to her throughout the day as well. What ho? A group of an extremely attractive set of people who are trying to blend in but refuse to interact with the local populace, therefore alienating themselves to everybody and just sit at a table all by themselves looking like freaking rich kids? That doesn't roll off the tongue. This group of idiots are the adopted kiddos of Carlisle Cullen and are referred to as the Cullens, and they'll thus be referred to as the Cullens for the rest of this review. They are a family of vampires who, instead of murdering the local humans, they go around and murder all the local wildlife. Hide your cats and your dogs. They are Capri Suns for these guys. Let's go ahead and introduce them real quick. You have Rosalie, who bitches a lot and doesn't exactly like Bella, and she's like super pretty. Rosalie is dating Emmett, who's super buff and extremely lovable and is way more chill than Rosalie could ever think to be. You have Alice, a small quirky girl who can see the future and is the main one who accepts and befriends Bella at the beginning. Alice is dating Jasper, who has the least control of his bloodlust, so let's just plop him in the middle of a high school surrounded by children who he wants to constantly murder. Also, he can sense and influence emotions around him, so that's great. And last but most importantly, we have Edward, who is the one that Bella actually points out to Jessica, and he can read everybody's mind except Bella's. How convenient. Jessica is the one who informs Bella and us that those are indeed pretty people, and they are adopted by another pretty person named Carlisle Cullen, who's the local head doctor, and his wife, Esme, who's just really, really nice. She also tells Bella that Edward doesn't exactly interact or talk or date anybody, which is going to bring up another pin. Pin number 2. No one at all. Alright, so we finished up lunch and now we're going to biology, and it looks like that the only seat available for us to sit at is next to that one guy. I think his name is Edward. Edward isn't too keen on having Bella sit next to him. Actually, he thinks that Bella smells like not only did she not take a shower, she spent many hours swimming around in raw sewage, and then afterwards she dried herself off with some dirty diapers. In reality, she smells like the best steak prepared by our most angriest of British men, Gordon Ramsay, and he is starving, so he has to enact all of his self-control so that way he doesn't commit murder in front of a bunch of teenagers. Bella notices that Edward's eyes are black, so that must mean he's a grizzly bear because he's grumpy, and much to my dismay, we get through class without any murder. Bella leaves class and goes to the office and finds Edward trying to seduce the office lady to let him change classes so that way he doesn't have to sit next to Bella. He is unsuccessful and runs off and leaves Bella being pretty hurt and heartbroken, which I think is kind of fair. If on my first day of school, an insanely hot guy sitting next to me treating me like that, I'd be kind of upset too. We don't need to worry about that. Edward doesn't go to school for the next few days. I'm glad that's over. Thought we were gonna have to deal with 4 books of a vampire love story. Edward comes back, much to my dismay. He returns to school and now he has golden eyes and he's way less grumpy. Wow, that's weird. I too, my eyes just change colors. And we're gonna skip some stuff and we're gonna go to the first major plot point. Strap in, kids. It's an extremely icy day on the road today, but don't worry, we have no problems because Charlie put chains on Bella's tires, so we get to school just fine. As she's contemplating whatever the heck Bella contemplates on a normal day, she notices dear old Edward boy talking to his siblings across the parking lot. That's when we hear it. The dreaded screeching of tires after they hit the ice and are whirling out of control. And it's a student. His name's Tyler, and he is very unimportant. Except for this one moment. Tyler's SUV is now skidding full steam ahead towards our protagonist, Bella. And right before she becomes the cardboard slab everyone is convinced that she is, Edward McSpeedy-san skedaddles all the way up to her, puts human-sized dents in the SUV, and saves Bella. Probably because it'd be weird if she was squished in front of everybody and he couldn't control himself and started licking blood off the floor. Or maybe he likes her. I don't really know at this point. Bella took a fall and bonked her head because it would be kind of surprising if someone just kind of popped up right next to you and stopped an SUV with their bare hands, but you know, whatever. While she's blabbering to Edward, asking him, hey, how'd you get over here so fast? He was like, look, bitch, I'll tell you, but you gotta zip it. And she's like, yeah, okay, sure. But he's a liar, pants on fire. Okay, so at this point of the book, he's desperately trying to not be romantic to his food, so he's just trying to push her away. Not effectively, but he gave it a try, I guess. So instead of telling her the truth that he's actually not allowed to tell anybody about the existence of vampires because the vampire government would come here and slaughter everyone without a second thought, he instead tries to gaslight her. It doesn't work because Bella don't stand for shit, but he tried. A+ for effort. You get a golden star, Edward. You sucked, but you tried. Also, we formally are introduced to Carlisle Cullen, who is an additional father figure for Bella, and also pin number 3. Father figures. Goes right here. This is when Carlisle tells us that Bella is A-okay and kicks her out of the hospital. Now we're at the part of the book where Bella learns about Edward being a vampire. And do you remember that character from earlier, Billy Black? You remember him? Well, now he's becoming important, so I guess I'll introduce him and a couple of other people. So there's a native Indian reserve called La Push next to Forks. Spoiler alert, this is the area with the shapeshifters. Not werewolves, by the way, but we'll get to that in a different book. The important people that live here are Billy Black, who is a wheelchair-bound man and also best friends with Charlie. Jacob Black, who is Billy's son and not important until next book, so I'm not going to waste my time on him right now. And Harry Clearwater. To be honest, he's not ever important. We don't ever actually meet him, but hey, he's Charlie's fishing buddy, so I I have to mention him. He's important to Charlie. LaPush is actually extremely important in the next book, so I will just wait to explain it until the next review. But just know that there are some Native American legends that are here and they get relevant to our Cullen predicament. So just keep that in mind. So, Bella is being dragged to the ocean to hang out with her human friends because her human friends are excited because it's like a warm day or it's not going to be cold or they planned it. Honestly, I don't care. I don't give a fuck. We're there now. Bella did try to invite Edward, much to everybody's dismay, but Edward said that was going to be a no-go for him. That becomes more suspicious when one of the reservation boys says that the Cullens are not allowed over here. Obviously, it's very suspicious to Bella, so she takes her childhood friend Jacob Black aside and says, "Yo, but why though?" Jacob's like, "Well, I don't believe it, but there are some legends that say that Cullens are vampires, and they were here a couple of centuries ago or something. Also, there are spirit warriors, which are werewolves, but they're not." He doesn't say that, but I'm just trying to reiterate the fact that we learn later that these are not werewolves. She's like, "Gasp! The Cullens are vampires?" And she Batmans away to her Google machine and looks up vampires. And sure enough, smoking hot, pale as death, and spooky strong are all symptoms of being a bloodsucker. Bella, armed with this terrifying information, decides that, well, he hasn't tried to kill me yet, so he must be cool. Alrighty then, have no self-preservation. Fine by me, I guess. You're just the protagonist. So I forgot to mention that there's a girl's choice stance and Bella decided to skip it. I skipped over that detail because I don't give a shit about school dances, but it's kind of important to this next plot point, so I might as well mention it. Bella decided not to go. There you go. But she did accept the invitation from Jessica and Angela to go take a girls' night at a local city to go choose dresses. Okay. Let me go on a tangent, just real quick about the book versus the movie. I get that people say that Bella has no personality, and that is something I will touch on in the review part, but you can take that criticism and just tuck it away in your pocket, just pretend it doesn't exist, and then you can take it out and put it back in a moment, all right? Just humor me. Just humor me with thinking Bella has a monicum of personality. Book Bella and movie Bella are very different people, in my opinion. Book Bella actually tries and puts effort in her human relationships with her father, with her friends, and she tries really hard. Book Bella, when she goes and does dress trying on with Jessica and Angela, gives her opinion, tells her what dresses they like, what shoes go with it, you know, normal girl shit, even though she's not interested. Movie Bella could give no fucks, and all she wants to do is go to a spooky bookstore and find spooky books. And you know what? That makes me mad. I like Book Bella a little better. At least she tries. Okay, my tangent over. I'm sorry. After they pick out their dresses, Bella breaks off to go shopping for books because she realizes that having 3 books in her library of books is fucking pitiful. Alas, she does not find any books. So, let's talk about this next major plot point. I'm gonna give Twilight this. This next situation is probably the most realistically scary situation that I personally could be in, but it's very tropey and very cheap writing, so, and has been explained as problematic. But you know what? I find it realistically scary. So, let's do this. Imagine with me for a moment that we're in 2005 to 2008 era. GPS isn't exactly available on your flippy flip phone, and that's if you even carried one, which I don't think Bella did in this situation, actually. You are in a big city, and you have the navigational ability of a dizzy 2-year-old, something of which is extremely relatable to me. You are lost at night in a shady part of town and in the distance, you hear the laughing of men. You pick up your pace a little bit, but the laughing gets closer. So close, in fact, that you can tell that they're drunk. They get even closer and they see you and they try to talk to you and say things that aren't exactly nice to say to a 17-year-old girl or to anyone. You walk away with a brisk pace, ignoring them saying things like, "Stay, honey," or "Why you leaving?" And you try avoiding them because you get that feeling at the back of your neck that says something that these people, they don't want to do good for me. You desperately try to find the main populated areas again, and that's when you see one of them down the street, and you think, no way. You hastily walk and turn a corner. Then a car drives by, and you swear it has one of those men driving in it. So you try turning another corner. That's when you realize these men are hurting you. They're hurting you to possibly an even more isolated location than where you were just at. You don't know where you are. It's dark, and you see no one to help you. What are you gonna do? Our girl Bella don't cry. No, she don't run. Oh, no. She prepares her fucking purse to beat the shit out of these crazy perverts. This bitch is in one of the scariest situations that I could realistically be in, and she thinks, wow, I really can't take them all, and I'll probably trip over my feet, and I know that they'll win, but I'm sure gonna give it my darndest to not let them do what they want with me. She knows she can't win, and she's still trying to pull out every ounce of self-defense. She's trying, okay? She's trying her darndest. As a tiny female myself, this is pretty admirable, so A+. Good job, Bella. I'd probably do the same, but I would at least look for, like, a pipe or a piece of wood. The sad reality is she probably would not have escaped this situation with, at best, her innocence, at worst, her life. But this is not reality. This is a YA novel. Edward zooms down the street, pulls over his car, and he's like, "Get in." Edward alpha mans on the badman and whisks Bella away completely unharmed. Freaking amazing. Of all the deaths Bella could have had, she didn't exactly deserve a back alley death. Let's be honest. No one really deserves a back alley death. Edward reveals that he is in fact in a tizzy because he can read the minds of people and confirms every woman's worst fear that yes, they indeed were gonna. Of course, the next logical step is that we're gonna have a date night! Date night! Woo! That's what you do after a near-death experience, right? Right? You have a date with a vampire that could kill you. That's obvious, right? You don't do that? Well, we do. That's what we're doing. We're having a date right now. After Bella eats and Edward doesn't, we go home, and that's when Bella decides to tell her saver that she knows that he's a vampire. Maybe she do got a death wish, but hey, he protected her so far, so I guess we could trust him not to kill us, since we know his deepest, darkest secret. Sure, and then we just fling it in his face, and he takes this surprisingly well, by the way. He doesn't kill us, much to my dismay. Now we're gonna skip some of the book because we're having obligatory, we need to be friends, so that way this isn't too weird, which is fine, but them playing 20 questions isn't exactly something I want to freaking talk about. So we're gonna go to the next major plot point, which I think most everybody knows this plot point. Even if you know nothing about this Twilight, you have got to know about this plot point. Edward notes that it's gonna be a sunny day, so he wants to take Bella out to show him why he can't be out in the sun. We travel deep in the forest to find a nice meadow where Edward takes off his shirt and shows us that he has a part-time job as a disco ball. I'll give him this. He does try to scare off Bella, but she do got a death wish, I guess. I mean, she believes that he won't hurt him because she has no reason to believe that he would hurt her because he's done nothing but grumpily save her life all the time. So, I mean, but still, she says something along the lines of, hey bro, you won't hurt me, so I'm gonna stick around. Deal with it. And after this, he becomes a lot more comfy with Bella. So comfy, in fact, that he tells her he watches her when she sleeps. I will address this point in the next video. If you can actually believe it, I can make it work. Like fucking magic. She's like, okay, but can you stay with the night with me knowing, because instead of being a creepy weirdo about it? And he's like, sure. Hey, let's skip some more. It's time to officially meet the Cullens. I've already introduced you to them, so there's no need to do it again. Just know that Alice is pretty cool, and I think she would actually make a really good older sister. Alice tells Bella in the game that there's gonna be a thunderstorm, which means that it's time to play baseball. Honestly, I don't care if you don't like Twilight. The baseball scene in the movie is actually pretty fun. I like it, and I will fight you. But first we must get parental permission to play baseball with our vampire boyfriend. So Edward goes to meet Charlie and says, hey, I'll bring her back soon. I'm taking her out to play baseball. And Charlie's like, okay, sure. We're gonna take a quick refresher on how Alice's future power works. She can tell the future after someone's made a decision. So if someone makes a decision, she can see it. But if they change their mind, the future changes, so she sees the new future. The future in this world is very fluid, and for the most part, people don't seem to change their mind, so she's right most of the time. Personally, I like this kind of future telling power. It's essentially being able to see butterfly effects. I'm about it. Now, the reason why I bring up Alice's future powers is because there's a group of wandering vampires nearby. But they didn't make the decision to meet the Cullens. But when you play baseball with creatures essentially made out of stone, and they make a big loud exploding noises, it gets loud. So they got curious. And the group of vampire then makes the decision to go meet the Cullens and say hello. The Cullens and Bella flip out, which makes sense because Bella is human and therefore is food. But they don't have time to run out Bella because vampires are really fast, and I guess if you run really fast, you spread the scent of human everywhere. So instead, they're going to try and pass Bella off as a vampire. 3 vampires emerge from the forest. First, we've got Victoria, a flaming redhead who is bonded, dating, married. I don't know, it's not really clear, but she's dating this guy named James, who's a tracker vampire, which means he essentially likes hunting. And last but not least, Laurent, who has really cool hair. And I think that's like the only special thing about him. They approach the Cullens and essentially ask to play baseball with him. Well, the forest sneezed, and Bella is still human, so the other vampires still smell her. Oops! Victoria, James, and Laurent are respectively ready to go murder Bella because she had tasted a snack, but Carlisle stops him and tells them that humans are friends, not food. Victoria and Laurent got the message, but James didn't. Of course James didn't. We need a conflict for this story. The fact that so many vampires are protecting this one human makes it appetizing to someone who likes to hunt. To hunt her, I guess. So, because there's this group of vampires wanting to protect Bella, and Edward is vehemently wanting to protect Bella, James wants to murder Bella himself. Great. How fun. This is how all baseball games work. Now, the book's conflict has been established. James the Tracker wants to murder Bella the human, and the Cullens don't want that to happen because humans are friends, not. This conflict happens in the last third of the book, and when I remembered it, it lasted way longer than it did. Imagine my surprise when I had to read 300 plus pages of book to get to the good part. So, let's just explain the conflict. After James and the vampire gang leave, Edward lets everyone know that James is not going to leave Bella alone and is in fact thinking about murdering her, and he's a tracker and Bella is his prey. And everyone freaks out. We strap Bella into a car and head to the Cullens' house. Bella, in the chaos, says, hey, how about we try to protect Charlie? Yes, Charlie is in a lot of danger right now. And boy, wouldn't it be suspicious if the police chief was murdered and his daughters was missing right along with the Cullen families who she was last seen with? You know, Bella doesn't think about that, but I don't think she needs to. You want to know why? I think this should have landed on Carlisle, the leader, the responsible one. Carlisle, you were supposed to be responsible. Why? Why didn't you think of this? Why did you have to wait until Bella was like, hey, maybe we should protect my father? She does Charlie dirty by repeating the words her mother said whenever her mother left and breaks his heart, which breaks mine. Poor Charlie. With this lie, she's actually going to go to Phoenix, Arizona to hide because, well, anybody would go anywhere other than where they said they were going if they were hiding from a killing machine. So I guess it has some kind of weird backwards logic merit. So we do just that. Bella breaks Charlie's heart and breaks my heart because she did Charlie dirty. She dips. She meets up with the Cullens at their house. Hey, look, Laurent is there to warn us that James is, in fact, trying to hunt Bella. Laurent, we knew this. Get the fuck out of our faces. I guess Laurent does tell us that Victoria is helping James. So, I mean, there's 2 vampires we're running away from and not just one. So, I'm sorry, Laurent. Bella switches clothes with Esme and goes in a car with Alice and Jasper to Phoenix. Esme and Rosalie go out and plant a false trail for James to follow and then double back to protect Charlie if need be. And then Emmett, Carlisle, and Edward try and track the tracker. Hey, look at that. We made it to spicy hot Phoenix, Arizona, and we are lying in wait at the hotel, hoping that everything will blow over nicely and that Edward murders James. Bella tries to call her mom's home number, but learns that mom is not here right now. So that's actually pretty good because we don't want Bella's mom to be home right now with a killer vampire running around. What's not so great is Alice has a vision of the future. See, Alice sees a spooky ballet studio, freaking that's where Bella used to do ballet stuff when she was like 6, so spoiler alert, that's where we're fucking going next. Alice gets a call from Edward saying that James gave the team the slip and that it's time to move Bella somewhere else. That's when Bella gets a call from her mother's number, and it turns out that James seems to have Mother Dear captured. That's not good. James tells us, don't tell Edward, come to the ballet studio alone. I was hoping he'd say Burger King, but nope, going to a creepy ballet studio instead. Bella gives Alice and Jasper the old slipperoony and goes to the ballet studio alone and without backup. That's when we learn that James is a Trixie Hobbitses. He doesn't have Bella's mom. No. Just has a VHS he stole from Bella's mom's house. That just sounds like Bella's mom being extremely concerned. It's very convenient home video. In fact, he heard the tail end of what Bella said to her father way back and forth, saying that she would go to Phoenix. He didn't think that Bella would actually go to Phoenix, but decides to check anyway, and look, he's right. Good on you for following your hunches, James. And here, my friends, is where the climax of the story happens, so let's buckle up and finish this. Bella walks in to an empty ballet studio. Empty, except for the TV playing the VHS with Bella's mother saying Bella's name with a concerned tone. James saunters over and turns the TV off and says, "Thank you for coming. Didn't see a need to actually bring your mother into this. Besides, this isn't about you. This is about pissing off Edward." He pulls out a camcorder. Let's make it interesting. Bella is, of course, relieved to find out that her mother is not here to be murdered or watch Bella be brutally murdered, but you will still find fear in your heart when you are staring into the face of the one who's about to kill you. She runs, or at least tries to, despite herself, and he lets her run for a while before throwing her across the room. He walks up to Bella, who now has glass embedded in her skin and curb stomps her leg, snapping it like it was merely a twig. James is having trouble now. He's having trouble containing his thirst, now that Bella is starting to bleed profusely. Hopefully, Edward comes to avenge her death, James says. Bella tells the camcorder, the Edward of the future, to not avenge her. James cannot contain his thirst anymore. He takes a bite out of her hand. By now, the blood loss and pain is taking over, and she starts sinking into a dreamy, unconscious state. On the other side of town, the Cullens are hot on Bella's trail, arriving as James is taking her blood. Edward starts to fight James, brutally biting off a chunk of James's neck. Jasper and Emmett help beat up James, while Alice and Carlisle rush to a broken and battered Bella. While Alice is one of the best at controlling her thirst, Bella has blood an incredible amount. Alice tag teams with Edwards and joins in decimating James, and Edward goes to Bella's side. It is at this time when the vampire venom kicks in. The venom begins to burn hotter than any burn that could feasibly be on human skin. It snaps Bella right into consciousness. Carlisle's already been trying to stop Bella from bleeding out, but now he needs to hold her fighting body down. He gives Edward a choice. Let Bella change or suck the venom out so she can remain human. Edward protests and tries to tell Carlisle that he should do it, but Carlisle is keeping her from bleeding out. Edward has to make this choice. Edward chooses to save Bella and begins sucking the venom out. With extreme self-control and positive reinforcement from Carlisle, the day is saved. Bella sinks back into unconsciousness, while Alice, Jasper, and Emmett start burning the ballet studio with the remains of James in the fire. Bella wakes up in the hospital, with Edward pretending to sleep in the chair. But he's pretending. He don't actually sleep. What a fucking fool. Renee is there and tells Bella that she has a room for Bella at her house. But Bella refuses and chooses instead to stay in force with Charlie and Edward. Which, by the way, would be totally fucking weird in the eyes of the parent. Your daughter just threw a fit, ran to Phoenix, and then wants to stay in Forks, and supposedly all of this after falling down a flight of stairs. Makes you wonder if your own daughter fell too hard on her way down. But we just want her to be happy, so we let her do what she wants. And that is the end of the main book. The epilogue is Edward taking Bella to prom and telling her, "No, I won't turn you into a vampire, you absolute fruitcake. I chose for you to remain human for a reason." Jacob Black also shows up with a message from his dad, Billy, saying that Billy doesn't want Bella to be dating Edward. While the sentiment is nice, Bella's still gonna be dating Edward. But Jacob was gonna get paid for delivering this message, and he gets the parts for the car that he wants. So it works out in the end. The end of this book. It doesn't really work out much for Jacob in the future, but that's okay. And with that, I think you could take a reading comprehension test on this story and at least get a C, which is what I'm aiming for. If I'm fixing this story, you gotta know what I'm fixing. So, why do people, more specifically teenage girls, like this book? And yes, I know you can be anybody and like this book, but it was targeted at teenage girls. Well, actually, I have some points. Or some pins that will actually help me shed a light in the theory that I have on why it was so liked despite being so flawed. All of these pins are pretty self-explanatory, but I'm still going to try to explain them. Here we go. Pin number 1, positive attention from the general student populace. Something kids and people in general fear deep down is being ostracized, not accepted by their peers. Fear gets amplified when you're a teenager in the middle of high school moving to a small town where everybody already knows you. Bella, despite being the most ordinary character from the beginning, actually has friends. And no true bullies, really. She's accepted, warts and all, by all of her peers. They understand that she's a klutz, that she's quiet, and that she's pretty smart, and they're okay with that. Even when the Cullens are introduced later, they all pretty much accept her for where she is. Well, except Rosalie, but I'll explain that later. Pin number 2, no one at all. This pin goes hand in hand with the first pin. One of the main criticisms of Twilight is that Bella has no personality, But that's not exactly true. Bella has a personality. It's just completely unremarkable. But I will go into that point later. Just remember that Bella, for all intents and purposes, is just like every other human girl. In fact, I believe that her inner dialogue is kind of relatable for most girls. She has low self-esteem, constantly dogs on herself, but despite that, there is someone who no one else could relate to or talk to that she could. And not only does that person like her, they love her unconditionally, despite that she's completely ordinary and doesn't have a high opinion of herself. Bit number 3, father figures. More specifically, positive father figures. I actually have no idea if people relate to this point, but it seems that media frames fathers kind of negatively. I'm not saying, okay guys, I'm not saying that there aren't any positive father figures in media, but it just seems that they are more often than not viewed as uncaring, like, you know what I mean, just not positive. Well, it's really nice to see someone like Charlie who accepts his daughter and is also accepting of what he doesn't understand about his daughter. He gives her space and freedom to be her own person, and coming from someone who comes from an extremely strict household, this is probably one of the best fantasies in the book. All I wanted when I was a teenager was to just be a teenager. Now, I believe that Charlie is a realistic father figure. While he is overall positive, he does make some mistakes, and he is still human. Carlisle, on the other hand, is the most precious cinnamon roll, and we must protect him at all costs. Carlisle is a vampire who has so much control over his thirst for blood that he could be a human doctor and like a really, really skilled one and not want to drain his patients of blood. He's kind, compassionate, really genuine, and he just wants people around him to be happy. So, all of these points go into what I theorize is the reason why people like Twilight. The story being, at its core, a story where even the most ordinary girl can be validated by everyone around them, including their father, despite what they think of themselves, and find true love in a creature that could have chosen anyone else. Essentially, a girl's wish, or a teenage girl's version of a power fantasy. So, I've said all the positives. If it's so good, then why do people hate Twilight? Oh my goodness. There's a lot of complaints about this. I'm gonna address the small complaints first. The writing style is, bland. The writing style's a little bland. Now, I ain't qualified to tell you how to write good. I'm just here to fix your stories. But this is definitely not George R.R. Martin or Tolkien or other top-tier author work. Your first impression of Bella is she's so whiny, extremely whiny, and she does get better throughout the book, but the first impression is just really, really, really strong on how whiny she is. Another point in which I coined in my Godzilla review is that this definitely qualifies as popcorn media. There isn't a deeper message here that's inherently present or really pushed on you. This is just for entertainment. This is just for a girl's power fantasy, which isn't a bad thing. I think people forget that popcorn media has its place. But when people are desperate to hate something, this is a point that they will bring up. We have to address the group of people who hate a media that's popular. They come with the territory of any popular media. Either it's people who want to feel different for not liking something everybody else likes, or people who are tired of having a thing crammed down their throats. I feel like most younger crowd fit in Camp A, while most older crowds fit in Camp B. Really big complaint you will hear about Twilight is that Bella does not have a personality. This complaint is technically wrong, but it is easily fixed by a little rewording. What I think they mean to say is that Bella doesn't have an interesting personality. She's not a manic pixie girl. She isn't like, I'm not like other girls kind of girl. And she's not the strong, independent, badass girl we see in action movies. So what does that make her? It makes her ordinary. Painfully and truly ordinary. Stupidly averaged. She is so painfully ordinary that most people can self-insert themselves as Bella. Very much like Link from Legend of Zelda, but more personality than Link. Thing is, I can actually list out Bella's flaws, her strengths, her likes and dislikes, how she may react to a certain situation, but her personality is still just average. I will be fixing her character in the Fix It video, so I will actually conclude this point next time. A big criticism is that Edward is a creep. I agree with this. He's a creep. But I think Miss Meyer was trying to portray something and completely miss the mark, which is what I will fix in the next video. And last but perhaps the biggest thing is actually more insidious, and it best explained by the one who brought it to my attention, Lindsay Ellis. I will attempt to reword it in my own words, but I do recommend watching this video to fully understand my point. Twilight was not liked a lot because it was mostly targeted to the most cursed age group in the world, teenage girls. The stereotype for teenage girls is that they're obsessive, dramatic, and downright annoying. Media associated and made for girls are hated because droves, and I do mean droves, of girls will scream their emotional, shrilly screams about their favorite music, media, artists, with no regard of how they look or what you feel about it. When a media is targeted at this cursed age group, it's not judged on its own merits. It's held to an impossibly high standard where this has to be a good role model for our teenage girls. This has to be this. This has to be that. When in reality, media made for boys isn't held to the same standard. Problematic elements, which there are many problematic elements that I will fix later, are the complete focus and are now fodder for vitriol and hate towards people, even if it's just harmless. Mostly harmless. Like I said, this point is best explained by Lindsay. I gave it my darndest, but you should still watch her video if you're interested in this point. And now, we've reached it. The end. This is the part where I tell you my opinion. I actually like Twilight, and I'll give you a small list of why. It'll be 5 points. 1, I relate to Bella quite a bit, which is why I get a little salty when people say that Bella has no personality. Does that mean that I have no personality as well? Because I relate to a girl that'd rather stay home and read or listen to music, daydreaming about her crush? Probably. 2, it is the definition of cheesy, which I have a special place in my heart for, as much as I hate to admit it. 3, it was my first introductions to the creatures that are vampires, and this goes hand in hand with the next point. 4, this had so much potential, and because of that, I did a lot of my own personal daydreaming during class, thinking about how much I could improve it. And I added a bunch of elements and things and facts that didn't exist. So imagine my surprise when I picked this up as an adult and it was the way it was. I was very disappointed. And 5, this point is a lot more personal. So bear with me, okay? This book was the first item in which I could actually relate to someone. It was middle school, which is always a horrible time for people. I, like many kids, felt alone, isolated, horribly out of place, which is weird, actually, because I did have a friend group, and it was a friend group that people wanted me to be a part of. But I just didn't feel like I related to them at all. I liked different things, and everyone seemed happy. No one seemed to feel nothing like I felt and still do. Of course, I didn't realize that at the time. I'm just clinically depressed. And knowing that at that age probably wouldn't have really helped all that much. I overcompensated these feelings or lack of feelings with humor. I tried so hard to make people laugh so that way they would like me and so they wouldn't feel like me and all of those stupid reasons. But of course, I was a child, so I'm assuming and I know that most of my humor or my attempts at humor ended up annoying people. However, despite this, Kitten came up to me and asked if I'd read this book, and I was open to reading this book named Twilight. Of course, I hadn't read this book. I was obsessed with Harry Potter, but I decided to give it a read anyway. It became a topic that Kitten and I would delve a lot into. We would make our own rules. We would make our own vampire OCs. We would make up stories in the notes that we passed during science class, and it made us a lot closer. And I think it was the time that I felt like I could truly click with someone. Of course, you grow out of it, or you grow to hate it. That's the only true way at the time to accept Twilight. You can only guess what side I ended up.
That stupid book. Yeah, I guess I'd read it.
Why would I like Twilight?
But I hated it.
It's just a stupid romance novel.
If I liked romance, probably wouldn't be alone right now.
I hate romance. The people
It's because you're second worst.
Grew close to with Twilight slowly became the ones causing me the most pain.
I only keep you around because you never leave.
So why would I be like her?
You aren't because you
Why would I like this stupid book series with their stupid versions of sparkly vampires?
You're fucking
I'm different from them. My thing is Harry Potter. My thing is magic. Twilight? Romance? That's just against everything I don't like romance. I hate it. So no, I don't like Twilight. In the next video, we're going to be fixing and remaking Twilight, so stay tuned. And if you like what I'm doing, please support me on Patreon. I give out stickers once a month of stuff that I made. So if you want to support me and get physical things for it, then go throw $10 at my face. I also stream on Twitch and I do a bunch of extra stuff, so if you look, I'm around. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and here's a heart just for you. Save for later. Use right now. I don't really care. You do you. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Chief of Police Charlie Swan. Brother from another mother. And this, lady and gentlemen, one lady, singular lady. The 3 vampires emerge from a yellow wood. And that, my friends, is what I call a wrap.